A desperate search for survivors after this massive condo collapse in Florida. As uncertainty mounts, the signs of encouragement giving rescue crews a sense of hope.
13 months after the killing of George Floyd, Derek Chauvin in court to learn how long he'll spend behind bars.
And for the first time since taking office, Vice President Kamala Harris visiting the U.S.-Mexico border. What she says needs to be done to address an increase in migrants at the border. ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
And good morning. So good to have you with us this midday. I'm Jim Patton.
Hello there. I'm Virginia Cha. We start with the latest on that tragic condo collapse in Florida. This morning, the search for survivors in Surfside continues as the list of missing grows. 3 more people were found dead overnight in what's left of the huge section of that high-rise that crumbled early Thursday morning outside of Miami. That brings the death toll to 4.
And this morning, officials say the number of people unaccounted for now at 160. But they say there are still signs of hope and that they will not give up their search for any survivors.
We will continue search and rescue because we still have hope that we will find people alive.
We have hope, and every time that we hear a sound, we concentrate in that area.
And new video shows the dangerous conditions rescue crews are wading into and what those who may still be clinging to life are under. This video showing crews in the basement of the building that collapsed, wading through the flooded area and digging into the rubble.
Officials say above ground crews are also at risk as debris falls to the ground below. Families, meanwhile, are desperate for word on their missing loved ones.
12-year-old daughter who's absolutely beyond in shock. She's so close to her father. Who's going to survive that rubble?
The cause of this collapse is still not clear. Investigators say it could take months to find the cause.
It has been 13 months since the death of George Floyd, an incident that sparked global outrage and protests and calls for change around the world, including here in San Diego. And today, the former officer convicted of murdering Floyd, Derek Chauvin, will be sentenced. Chauvin faces decades behind bars and will learn his fate in just the next hour or so. In the meantime, ABC 10 News reporter Nate Holmes explains how we got here and what will be the key factors in today's decision.
This was the moment the former Minnesota officer Derek Chauvin learned the jury found him guilty back in April. Chauvin was convicted on 3 counts, but under Minnesota law, the judge will sentence him on the most serious charge, second-degree murder. Legal guidelines recommend 10 to 15 years for first-time offenders, but prosecutors are asking that he receive 30 years. This after the judge determined aggravating factors in the case supported a stiffer sentence. Those factors include acting with particular cruelty, abuse of trust and authority, and the ordeal being carried out in front of children.
These aggravating factors actually are very important, and they really do require a stiffer sentence.
The judge is allowing Chauvin to be in civilian clothes instead of wearing his jail jumpsuit. It's unclear if he or his family will address the court. We're learning several of George Floyd's family members are expected to make statements this morning about the pain this has caused their family.
Gianna, she said her dad would change the world, and I think that we will be able to cement his legacy because he did just that. He changed the world. He brought everybody across this country together for one purpose, and that was to make sure that these officers be held accountable.
Chauvin's attorney has indicated he will ask the judge for leniency and that the former cop be released on time served and probation. The San Diego branch of the NAACP is reacting to today's scheduled sentencing. They sent us a statement that says, in part, "We look forward to the much-needed passing of the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. We look forward to bringing widespread accountability to officers who abuse their power to drive changes to policy and practice in the direction of justice." Nate Holmes, ABC 10 News.
And Chauvin also still facing trial on federal civil rights charges, along with the 3 other fired officers who have yet to have their state trials. Well, as noted in the previous story, very broad sentencing range is being sought by the opposing attorneys in this case.
Joining us now with more insight into this process and all that will be considered is San Diego criminal defense attorney David Shapiro. David, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, as you know, there are sentencing guidelines, there are also aggravating factors. How does the judge weigh all of these considerations, and what do you think a reasonable sentence would be?
Well, I think first, the judge sort of addressed how he's weighing these factors by, the prosecution asked for 5 aggravating factors to be deemed beyond a reasonable doubt. And the judge agreed with the prosecution on 4 of the 5. So looking at the range of what's an appropriate sentence here, as your reporting indicated, the guideline range is at, let's say, 12 and a half years for a first-time offender like Mr. Chauvin. But when we have basically these upward departures from that norm, I think we're going to fall somewhere in the range, probably around the low 20s, as an appropriate sentence here for former Officer Chauvin.
David, as a defense attorney, do you see this decision being made completely independent, or will it be influenced by the massive attention that this case is getting?
Well, I mean, I think it's impossible for it not to have been influenced by the massive attention. Jury selection was influenced by the massive attention. The world has been influenced by, what everyone saw happen on that body-worn camera and on those civilian cell phone camera images. So, the judge's job is sort of to block out all that noise. But again, going back to my previous statement about him finding 4 of the 5 aggravating factors, I think that's a good indicator of where the judge is thinking. And I think it's going to be a sentence significantly more than that 12 and a half range.
Now, as you know, Chauvin did not testify during the trial. He certainly has the right to address the court in this situation. Do you think there is an advantage one way or the other for him to speak today or not?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, he's thinking about, or his attorney should be thinking about a lot of things. One is a pending appeal. Once he's sentenced, I'm sure they'll appeal this conviction and this sentence to a higher court. So they want to be mindful of that. They also want to be mindful of the pending federal charges that are coming against him and the other 3 officers that we've come to learn about, over the past, 13, 14 months or so. I think the only real thing that he should be saying as a defense attorney, what I would consider advising him to say, is express remorse for the loss of life without necessarily accepting blame for it. Just accept and acknowledge what a tragedy this was, whether you think you're responsible for it under law or not.
We haven't seen that thus far. Why do you think that's the case? And does his demeanor today have something to say about what the sentence will be?
Well, I mean, I think the judge probably is going into this with a pretty good indication of where he's going to fall. Judge Cahill in Minneapolis. I think that if Chauvin is going to make a statement, it better be a good one. Otherwise, it'll actually hurt him more than just sitting there in silence. So, that's a factor too. That may be a factor why he didn't testify, because if he comes off in the negative, he's better off not saying anything.
Well, we will find out soon enough. Attorney David Shapiro, thank you so much. We really do appreciate your insights.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Now, we will track this story throughout the day. We'll have the hearing live right here on ABC 10 later this hour. You can also find more info on the sentencing and also watch that hearing live online at 10news.com. Today, Vice President Kamala Harris making a visit to the U.S.-Mexico border. She touched down in El Paso, Texas earlier this morning before meeting with Customs and Border Protection officials. Now, this is coming after calls for a border visit following her trip abroad in which she discussed migration to the U.S. Today, the Vice President said the U.S. needs to help address problems in Central America to dissuade people from leaving there in the first place.
Most people don't want to leave home. And when they do, it is usually because either they are fleeing some type of harm or they cannot take care of the simple and basic needs of their family by staying where they are.
The U.S. has seen a surge of border crossings in just the last few months. CBP says they encountered more than 180,000 migrants in May.
Well, we are waiting to see if the mounting pressure to reopen the U.S.-Mexico border to non-essential travel is going to have any effect. San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria calling on the federal government to make that happen now. The reason for keeping it closed is not wanting to see a huge spike in COVID cases in our region. Mayor says he's looking at how a vaccination site could move the federal government to reopen the border to travel again.
Tell me what level of vaccination rate we have to get to on both sides of the border. Tell me what conditions we may meet. If we had that information, that would be hope for a lot of the small businesses you're talking about, hope that they don't currently have today.
Well, right now, the closure to non-essential travel isn't set to expire until July 21st.
California getting set to extend the ban on evictions for unpaid rent through the end of September. That would be 3 more months. That news coming today as we wait to learn exactly how the state plans to bail out millions of Californians who couldn't pay their rent during the pandemic. Governor Newsom recently proposed using billions in federal relief funds to cover unpaid rent for lower income Californians. Right now, qualified renters can get 80% of their rent paid. But this would completely cover what they owe. Renters like Gabriel Guzman, who, along with his wife, lost 60% of their income during the pandemic, say it would be a much-needed lift.
Yeah, the pandemic's almost done, we hope, as far as the virus being transmitted, but the financial portion of it is just beginning.
We are still waiting to find out the final details of the statewide proposal, but it would reportedly apply to the same people currently eligible for relief, those who make up to 80% of the median income in their area.